You've probably hummed the melody without even realizing it. You've definitely heard it in movies, commercials, and maybe even as a ringtone. It is one of the most famous and recognizable pieces of classical music on the planet, the Queen of the Night's aria from the Magic Flute, a glittering, diamond-bright showpiece. But what if I told you it's not a showpiece at all? What if, in reality, it's a meticulously crafted 3-minute panic attack set to music, a document of pure psychological terror? That sparkling melody you know is actually a weapon, and its target is the Queen's own daughter. Stick around because by the end of this video, you will understand the profound terror stitched into every single note, and you will never, ever hear that famous Coloratura sparkle the same way again. Imagine this. Your own mother, her face completely pale with a terrifying cold fury, wordlessly hands you a sharpened kitchen knife. She leans in close, so close you can feel the heat of her rage, and her voice is a venomous whisper in your ear. "Sweetie," she says, "I need you to go murder the man who wronged me, and if you don't, you are dead to me. I will disown you, I will erase you from my will, my heart and my memory as if you never existed." Then, instead of walking away, she plants her feet, stares into your soul, opens her mouth and unleashes a note so impossibly high and shrill, it feels like it could shatter glass, bone and your very sanity. Welcome to Vienna, 1791. Your mom is the Queen of the Night, the knife is terrifyingly real, and her unique form of parental guidance is the aria der Hölle Rache. If you still think this is just a pretty tinkling melody, buckle up, because Pretty just pulled a weapon and it's aimed right at your throat. On the surface, Mozart's opera. The Magic Flute looks like your standard fairy tale. It's got a handsome prince, a beautiful princess, and a series of mystical trials they must overcome. But the Queen of the Night isn't your average fairy godmother. She's here to order a hit. Her arch-nemesis, the high priest Sarastro, has her daughter Pamina under his protection, or as the Queen sees it, under lock and key. The Queen wants revenge, and she wants blood, so she finds her daughter, shoves a dagger into Pamina's trembling hand, and launches into this very aria. 3 minutes later, sopranos backstage are fanning themselves, conductor's hair has visibly grayed, and the audience is collectively breathing into paper bags. Mozart didn't just write a difficult song, he weaponized every musical trick in the 18th century playbook, stuffed it all into a tightly laced corset, and created a portrait of pure, incandescent rage. But how exactly do you write a panic attack? As with any good horror story, it all starts with the setting, or in this case, the key. The aria is written in the key of D minor. For a composer like Mozart, this was not a casual choice, it was a powerful, deliberate statement. He reserved the key of D minor for his most profound and terrifying subjects, for supernatural vengeance in his opera Don Giovanni, for ghostly apparitions, and for the chilling final judgment in his famous Requiem Mass. This is what some musicologists call Mozart's key of the widow, the sound of grief so profound it has curdled into something far more dangerous. While Beethoven often used D minor to score dramatic funerals, Mozart uses it here to set off a screaming car alarm in your soul. From the very first notes, the orchestra doesn't play a melody, it hammers relentless, pulsing eighth notes, perfectly mimicking a heart that refuses to calm down, a panicked pulse galloping toward a cliff. You won't find any cozy, comforting major chords here, just pure, unfiltered sonic menace from a composer who knows exactly how to get under your skin. In most operas of the era, coloratura, those breathtakingly fast, elaborate runs and trills, is used like a vocal peacock feather. It's a singer's chance to show off, to say, "Look how agile my voice is, look how many notes I can sing, how quickly and beautifully." But here, Mozart transforms this ornament into an instrument of madness. The coloratura means something else entirely. It means, I am losing my mind so completely that my very words are shattering into 1,000 glittering, razor-sharp pieces. The soprano is forced to vault up to an F6, a note that sits 2 full octaves above middle C, while firing off staccato notes like a volley of machine gun bullets at an unforgiving tempo of over 140 beats per minute. The vocal line is strategically designed to mimic a scream that your throat never quite finishes, the kind you have in a nightmare where your legs are stuck in molasses. If the singer shows the slightest wobble on those stratospheric notes, the queen's entire mask of invincible divine fury cracks like cheap porcelain, revealing the frantic desperation underneath. Now let's listen even closer underneath the stunning vocal fireworks to what the strings are doing. They aren't bowing long, lyrical lines that you can hum along to. They are jackhammering. Mozart writes brutally short, stabbing staccato jabs that slice each musical phrase into a series of shiv cuts. There's a fascinating psychological term for what happens to you as you listen: motor empathy. It means that your own body, your own heartbeat, subconsciously starts to copy the rhythm you're hearing. So when the orchestra starts pumping out those frantic, panicked eighth notes at the tempo of a full-blown anxiety attack, your own chest physically tightens in response. Your pulse quickens. Congratulations, you are no longer just a passive listener observing a meltdown. Mozart has just pulled you directly inside of it, making you a participant. Just when you think you might have adjusted to the frantic pace, about halfway through the aria, Mozart yanks the harmonic rug right out from under your feet. He deploys a diminished seventh chord. The universal musical symbol for something unspeakable is right behind you. For centuries, composers have used this specific dissonant chord to signal dread, instability, and outright horror. Modern horror films still steal it for their most terrifying jump scares and possessed kid scenes. Your brain, which is biologically wired to seek out patterns, begs for a resolution that makes sense. It craves a return to a stable, consonant chord. Mozart, however, withholds it like a sadistic bartender holding your drink just out of reach, forcing you to sit in the tension. When he finally does shift the harmony, it's by a single slithering semitone, and it doesn't feel like relief. It feels like the cold, flat edge of that knife kissing your skin. All stability is gone, only the obsession remains. And what about the lyrics themselves? They are a chilling masterclass in toxic parenting. The German words "Der Hölle Rache kocht in meinem Herzen" translate to "Hell's vengeance boils in my heart, death and despair flame around me. If Sarastro does not feel the pain of death through you, then you will be my daughter nevermore." This isn't tough love, it's emotional ransom of the highest, most terrifying order. Mozart masterfully underlines every single threat with whip-crack consonants that are designed to spit from the singer's mouth. The K sounds in cocked and the R and Rach are articulated like weapons. The queen isn't just singing the words, she's turning the very syllables into shrapnel, designed to tear into her own daughter's psyche. Then, at the absolute peak of this musical and emotional explosion, after the final screaming F6, the fireworks suddenly evaporate. The full orchestra goes silent, replaced by a bare, skeletal, and spoken-like secco recitative. It's just the voice and a few dry, plucked strings, as if the queen has passed out mid-rant from the sheer force of her own rage. One second you are witnessing breathtaking vocal pyrotechnics, the next you are in a hollow, shaky, and unnervingly quiet dialogue. This structure brilliantly mirrors a real psychological breakdown, the grandiose, terrifying explosion of rage, followed by a sudden, unnerving, and empty silence. In that quiet, you realize with a chill that the queen has burned through every last ounce of her humanity, turning it all to ash, and she still didn't get the kill order fulfilled. Here's where the story gets even darker and more personal. Mozart wrote this impossibly demanding piece for a specific singer, his own sister-in-law Josepha Hofer, who was famous in Vienna for her almost unnaturally precise steel-wire high notes. He knew exactly what he was asking of her. He was tailoring the horror to her specific, almost frightening abilities. Critics at the time were absolutely stunned. One reviewer in Prague described the performance as inhuman, claiming the composer must have summoned a demon and asked it to trill. Now remember this crucial fact: Mozart died just 2 months after the Magic Flute premiered. Suddenly the aria feels less like a simple character piece and more like a man desperately exercising his own mounting dread of the rapidly approaching finish line. Was he just writing the queen's fictional rage, or was he channeling his own very real terror into the music? To this day, professional coloratura sopranos talk about this aria the way elite mountaineers talk about summiting K2. It is, without a doubt, a career-defining trial by fire. You can train for a decade, walk onto that stage under the hot lights, and for 3 solid minutes, you are balancing on a high wire with no net, while the orchestra behind you refuses to slow its relentless, unforgiving pace. If you miss a breath, or miscalculate your support for even a fraction of a second, the next cascade of notes will steamroll you into oblivion. If you overshoot a pitch, even slightly, 2,000 people in the audience will wince in perfect, horrified unison. The terror you might feel just listening to it is merely the faint shadow of the terror the soprano feels while living it, note by terrifying note, in real time. And this isn't just poetic conjecture, it's biology. Neuroscientists have put people into fMRI machines, blasted their Hölle Rache, and watched their amygdalas, the brain's primal fear and threat detection center, light up like Christmas trees. Yet, when asked, those same subjects often report that they, the experience. That's the paradox of horror in a nutshell. Your body can't tell the difference between a threat in art and a genuine threat in the wild. Your palms might sweat. Your pulse syncs up to the driving staccato rhythm, and your stress hormone levels can rise. And yet you lean in, captivated. You are a willing captive in Mozart's brilliant and terrifying neurological experiment. There's a very good reason this aria has become pop culture's go-to shorthand for unhinged female rage. Need to establish instant evil queen vibes in a movie? Just drop this track. It appears in horror film trailers, dramatic car commercials, heavy metal mashups, and even scenes with possessed dolls. Culture keeps this piece on speed dial because it perfectly bottles the terrifying power of feminine fury in its purest, most undiluted, and most spectacular form. The queen isn't just a fairy tale witch, she's a timeless archetype of wrath wearing a tiara, and that kind of power is just as unsettling and scary in the 21st century as it was in the 18th. If your pulse is currently doing parkour up the side of your neck, you can blame Mozart, not me. Here at Opera Brownn, we absolutely love digging for the buried horror hiding inside the world's most beautiful music. So if you want to keep exploring the dark side of the classics with us, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell. So let's replay just 30 seconds of the aria with these new, enlightened ears. That churning, frantic D minor orchestra, that's not just music. That's the sound of the Queen's blood pressure skyrocketing into the stratosphere. Those relentless machine gun staccato notes, that's the dagger, twitching nervously and threateningly in her daughter Pamina's grip. And that final skyscraper high F6, that is the precise, audible moment that the Queen's mind finally snaps under the weight of her own obsession. Once you begin to map these layers of psychological meaning onto the sound, the aria stops being a simple party trick or a pretty tune. It becomes a panic room with gilded walls, and Mozart has just locked you inside with no way out. Great horror doesn't get old, it just gets remastered for a new and unsuspecting generation. This aria remains so profoundly terrifying because it does something very clever. It weaponizes beauty itself. We have a fundamental expectation that dazzling, beautiful art is supposed to comfort us, to uplift us, to make us feel good. Instead, this piece uses its beauty to indict us. It forces us into the shoes of the daughter, Pamina, holding that knife, making us complicit in a toxic, nightmarish bargain we never signed up for. That profound emotional bait and switch is the very core of psychological terror, and Mozart delivers it with a logoless purity that needs no translation and no explanation. So the next time an algorithm innocently slips this iconic piece into your classical chill or focus music playlist, don't be fooled for a second. You're not relaxing, you're listening to a detailed portrait of a mind on fire. You're hearing a mother threaten to erase her own child from existence. Mozart knew that the shiniest, most beautiful gift can hide the sharpest blade. And he taught us that true terror doesn't always growl from the shadows. Sometimes it sings in diamond-bright staccato, wearing a magnificent starlit crown and demanding murder in perfect crystalline German. Mozart's Queen of the Night Aria isn't merely a difficult piece of music. It is danger itself, transcribed onto paper and unleashed into the world. Every impossibly high F is a polished, weaponized scream. Every rapid-fire staccato run is a symbolic stab of the knife. And every jarring, unexpected harmonic twist is the sound of a human mind unraveling in real time. The most famous Coloratura showpiece on Earth is, in fact, one of the most effective masterclasses in musical horror ever composed. It proves once and for all that the human voice, when pushed to its absolute physical and emotional limits, can scare us far more deeply and profoundly than any monster mask or special effect ever could. Beauty and terror share a very thin border, and Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart drew that line for all time in blazing, unforgettable D minor. What other beautiful piece of music secretly gives you the chills? Let us know in the comments below because we read all of them. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss the next deep dive from all of us here at Opera Brownn.
Every note in opera tells a story, but some notes tell a legend. The F6, the Queen of the Night's most feared and revered note, is more than sound. It is a challenge carved in pitch, a test of the human voice against the impossible. For centuries, sopranos have faced it with awe and terror, knowing that one misstep could shatter perfection. Yet, for those brave enough, it becomes transcendence. The Queen of the Night does not simply sing, she commands. Each F6 is lightning, a sonic tempest that pierces the air and demands attention. To hear it is to feel the pulse of history, to witness the pinnacle of human artistry. Mozart did not merely write notes. He wrote a battlefield, where every soprano must fight, soar, and rise. And yet, for all its terror, there is beauty beyond imagination. There is triumph in mastery, a thrill in the impossible realized. That single note connects generations, reminds us of the power of discipline, passion, and artistry, and leaves a mark no performance can erase. If the Queen of the Night has captivated you, if the sheer audacity of Mozart's genius has left you breathless, join us and subscribe to Opera Brownn. Step into a world where every aria has a story, every voice holds a secret, and every performance pushes the limits of what is possible. Discover legendary voices, historic arias, and the moments that have defined music itself. Here at Opera Brownn, we don't just listen to opera, we experience it. We celebrate the daring, the sublime, and the unforgettable. The F6 is waiting for those brave enough to hear it. Subscribe now to Opera Brownn and journey with us through the heights of human voice, the depths of musical genius, and the timeless drama of opera. Stay curious, stay inspired, and never stop exploring the beauty, the terror, and the perfection of every note.